After losing his job, she left him, but what unexpected changes happened next will amaze you. Mike Simpson stared at the unopened bills piling on the kitchen table, each one a reminder of the life he once controlled. $50,000 spent building other people's dreams. Now the only vision he held was one of crumbled hopes, the fear of losing everything wrapped around him like a shadow. What would happen now? After 15 years as a construction manager, after all the sweat and sacrifice, Mike sat on the precipice of doubt. He couldn't shake the dread that he wasn't enough. He had fought hard, but the economy didn't care about effort. It decided what mattered, and it had decided it was done with him. His heart sank further into his chest as he felt Sarah pulling away. He watched her carefully, hushed conversations stretched thin between them. When she voiced her worries about their mortgage, the fear in her eyes mirrored his own, but they were drifting apart. Mike's inability to secure a new job crushed him and turned their living space cold, filled with guilt. It was the first time he felt utterly helpless, teetering in a chasm of isolation. He knew she loved him, but love wasn't enough to keep water from seeping into their fragile boat. The love they once shared now morphed into pity wrapped in silence. And when she finally packed her bags, it wasn't just heartbreak, it felt like the last breath leaving his body. With her gone, the house echoed painfully. Mike wandered into the garage, each step resonating with emptiness. That's when he spotted the weathered woodworking bench tucked in the corner, draped in layers of dust like memories sealed away. Memories of laughter with his grandfather, his weathered hands guiding him through the joy of shaping wood. In that instant, something flickered deep within him, a spark, a sense of purpose he thought he lost. He hesitated, his mind racing with possibilities and fears, and yet, driven by a fragile hope, he approached the bench and set to work once again. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed in a blur as his hands transformed raw wood into beautiful furniture. Each curve and line cut into the grain became a piece of Mike's healing. And as word spread, his heart swelled with accomplishment. Selling at local markets, he exchanged small talk and light banter with delighted customers, each compliment stroking a fragile ego he'd nearly forgotten. Through the excitement, a familiar rhythm returned. But with each piece, his own shadows re-emerged, evoking uncertainties about his past, Sarah's face, their shattered dreams, the bitterness that remained unspoken. Then she walked back into his atmosphere like an intrusion amidst all he had built. He froze, caught off guard in a coffee shop filled with muffled conversations, the scent of roasted beans swirling around him. Their eyes met, and he felt the gravity of unspoken words weigh heavily upon them. Sarah, looking vulnerable, her hands trembling as she shared her apologies, her shame now raw against her fragile vulnerability. Mike felt the walls he built quake. Should he reveal how he had found himself again, the person he no longer recognized? Each breath was a battle between longing and resentment. A choice loomed before him, pulling him in two directions. Could they meet in the middle, or had they irrevocably lost the thread binding them? The tension thickened, straining against the uncertainty of their past, like muscles pulled too tight. As awkward silence filled the air, desperation painted his thoughts and for the first time, he questioned if reconnecting could mend what felt eternally broken. Mike's mind raced as he absorbed Sarah's presence. This moment, palpable and charged, wrapped around him like the strangling vines in a forgotten garden. He could see she was searching for something familiar, perhaps the warmth of what they once had, yet his heart clashed with the memories tied to that warmth. With each word she spoke, a layer of his emotional armor peeled away, revealing the raw insecurity that festered underneath. As she hesitated, voice trembling. I didn't know how to deal with everything. You lost the job, and I thought I was losing you too. Her admission struck him fiercely. It illuminated their disconnect, yet somehow deepened the chasm between them. It's not just about the job, Sarah. It was feeling like a stranger in my own life. Without it, who am I? Silence settled in the space between them, almost tangible. The barista moved through the coffee shop, nonchalant in her routine, while Mike felt the world numb around him, focusing solely on her. Memories swirled like a tempest, laughing over dinner, planning a future, the sparks of life he no longer felt. He glanced down at the table, the rough grain of the wood that had now become his solace contrasting with the smooth, glossy surface where he and Sarah once shared promises. With disbelief, Mike recognized that he had transformed over these last few weeks. The wood had not only been a source of income, it had reshaped him. He remembered each splinter he had endured, waking in the middle of the night drenched in anxiety, and yet felt a resilient strike within him. He was not merely passive anymore, he was crafting his own future. Maybe we both need to uncover who we are now, he finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. I can't pretend I'm okay, but I want to try. I don't want to go back to what we were. I want to find something new. But that means facing what is left of us, and being real about it. Her eyes shimmered, vulnerability flickering like a candle's flame, and he feared how quickly it might extinguish. I don't know if I can handle seeing you as you are now. I'm scared, Mike. The only thing we have to fear is not trying, he replied, anchoring his own wavering spirit. The decision loomed larger than his fractured heart, and opportunity lay nestled within it. Could vulnerability be the bridge back to her? As seconds turned into uncomfortable minutes, he felt the tension slip through his fingers, like grains of sand lost to time. You know, I started woodworking again. I didn't just lose a job, I found a passion. I need you to understand I'm not the same man you left. I'm forging something new out of my failures. And I want you with me, but I can't do it if you are not ready. In a silence, Mike saw a flicker of something deeper, understanding mixed with fear. But through it all, doubt wormed its way back into his thoughts. Would she accept this transformed version of him? And if she did, would it be enough? Maybe we can take small steps, she suggested hesitantly, the fragile hope giving root within her. His heart sparked with a sense of purpose, but beneath it lay a question twisting like a knife: what would it mean to risk the familiar for the unknown? The promise that emerged summoned shadows of insecurity. They could rebuild, but would they have the strength to navigate the complexities that awaited them? As he looked into her eyes, he contemplated their next choice, the journey that lay ahead still veiled in uncertainty. Whatever emerged, it would require bravery, a venture beyond merely reconstructing a relationship into rediscovering each other as hearts. And as both faced the challenge looming before them, Mike felt the darkness beckoning once more. Would he dare to face it, knowing the cost it entailed? The moment of truth danced tantalizingly close, each pulse of uncertainty igniting another question. Could they endure the storm ahead, or would the tempest swallow them whole? The following week unfolded quietly for Mike, a strange calm amid the tempest he had begun to navigate. Each morning, he awoke with a blend of fire and fear, the fire of renewed purpose to craft not just wood, but the contours of his own identity, the fear that old insecurities would rally and consume his resolve. In his workshop, surrounded by shavings of cedar and oak, he began to find clarity. His hands, callous yet graceful, transformed raw timber into elegant pieces of furniture. Crafting each chair and table became a meditative experience, a tangible representation of his journey from despair to action. Yet the deeper question remained: would this renewed passion be enough to bridge the gap with Sarah? As the sun streamed through the window, illuminating the motes of dust dancing in the air, Mike sensed a shift within him. He no longer wanted to build a facade, nor romanticize their past. Instead, he pushed himself to confront the reasons why he had felt so lost in the first place. It was too easy to measure his worth by job titles and societal approval. He realized he had missed essential truths about himself, the creativity that had lain dormant, still waiting to be coaxed into the light. The following Saturday brought another chance for connection with Sarah. She arrived at his workshop, her apprehension nearly palpable, weaving through the scent of fresh cut wood and varnish. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, she began, her voice tender but steady, like a buoyant leaf caught in a gentle stream. About uncovering who we are now. As they spoke, Mike felt a pulse of determination. They were delicate figures treading uncharted waters, yet there was potential for growth in this shared exploration. What do you see when you think about us? He asked, his voice laced with intent. She paused, shifting her gaze to the handcrafted items lining the shelves. I see possibilities, but I also see how far apart we've grown. I'm scared of reaching for something new and failing again. Her honesty unexpectedly stung. Painful reality swirled within him, yet he couldn't hide from it. Vulnerability was essential to their journey. I realized that my identity became tied to that job I lost. When it disappeared, I lost myself too. But building these pieces, it's been unique, challenging me in a way I hadn't expected. Her eyes lit with a mixture of curiosity and cautious optimism. And who is this newfound Mike? I'm someone who is still discovering what makes me whole. I'm not just a man with plans, I'm a craftsman, a creator, someone searching for purpose in the making. As the conversation deepened, Mike sensed a profound shift in Sarah as well. She expressed her passions, her desire to explore photography, a dream she had shelved long ago. Hearing her tentative aspiration sparked something within him, a yearning to encourage her to pursue her path too. Let us be brave together, he suggested, the words flowing from a place of genuine hope. We can take this chance, not just for our relationship but for ourselves. Let us embrace this journey of discovery. Though she nodded softly, uncertainty dimmed her gaze. As they discussed starting small, taking classes together, trying new hobbies, the tension that had hung between them started to dissolve like fog under the morning sun. But then an unsettling thought crept into Mike's mind. What if their paths diverged even more as they ventured into their respective pursuits? That evening, as Mike worked late in the workshop, he wrestled with a fear that gnawed at him. In pursuing growth, was he risking the very bond he hoped to restore? Would independence dilute their connection instead of enhancing it? Noticing a draft sweep through the room, he sat back, sweat beading on his brow, and wrestled with his doubt. The progress they made felt significant, yet the unknown loomed like an imposing wall. Facing challenges ahead and the potential for personal growth was fraught with emotional peril, but one detail cut through the haze of uncertainty. They could share this journey, yet each step required individual courage, even if one day it meant standing alone. As Mike looked out into the twilight shadows cast by his workshop, he realized the storm was over. The horizon held new challenges and, ever since that fateful day of loss, change had become a constant companion. Balance was key, but could they truly find a way to grow without losing their connection? The following week loomed ahead, holding whispered promises of opportunity and risk. But with so much still uncharted, Mike braced himself because their next step could propel them into realms neither anticipated. Would they withstand the weight of vulnerability? Or would fear lead them back into solitude? In the days that followed, Mike's workshop transformed into a sanctuary of self-discovery, with each piece of wood serving as a metaphor for his own evolving identity. He lost himself in the crafting process, pouring his hopes and uncertainties into the contours of each creation. Their smooth surfaces became not just works of art, but reflections of a mind grappling with the conflict between independence and intimacy. Determined to move beyond the familiar confines of his fears, he sought inspiration outside the four walls of his workshop. He stared at the handcrafted items arrayed before him and realized that they were not just objects, they were vessels of expression. So, one morning, he decided to explore the local art community, each step away from the confines of his workshop sparking both exhilaration and anxiety within him. The urban landscape buzzed with energy, and Mike felt an unfamiliar thrill as he entered a nearby gallery. Here, amidst vibrant colors and bold strokes, he encountered an array of artists equally passionate about their craft. This was a space alive with exploration and sharing, a marked contrast to the solitude of his workbench. Yet in those very surroundings, a sense of trepidation crept him. As artists mingled, revealing their vulnerabilities through laughter and discussions, he felt an old familiar weight settle in his chest, the fear of inadequacy. He stood isolated at first, watching as conversations flowed like the brushstrokes on the canvases around him. Their confidence only served to magnify his self-doubt. Then a woman caught his eye, her laughter ringing clear across the room. She was discussing the intricacies of a medium oil paint, and her enthusiasm pierced through his internal chaos like a lighthouse guiding him from the darkness. With a newfound determination, he approached her. "It's incredible to see how passionate you are about your work," he said, his voice steady despite the undercurrent of anxiety. "Thank you. Each piece feels like a piece of my soul," she replied, her eyes bright. "What do you create?" Mike hesitated momentarily as insecurity tightened around his throat. Then, he took a breath. "I build furniture." "Oh, wow. That is amazing." She smiled, genuinely enthusiastic, and in that moment, something shifted within him. He began to explain how he found himself crafting pieces as a way to rediscover his purpose after losing his job. The testimony flowed with surprising ease, revealing not just his craft, but the journey his spirit had taken to arrive in that room. To his astonishment, she reciprocated with her own story of hardship and rebirth, detailing her first exhibition after overcoming years of self-doubt. The exchange continued, weaving moments of vulnerability and encouragement like threads in a tapestry. By the time he left the gallery, the weight of self-doubt had lightened. This woman's spirit ignited something within him, a recognition that each artist's journey enveloped struggle and triumph. Mike understood that growth involved not only crafting the tangible but also forging connections that enriched one's essence. Returning home, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the cusp of important realizations, not only for himself but for his relationship with Sarah. Their conversation had ignited a thoughtful process in him, stirring questions about how their individual pursuits fostered, rather than threatened, their connection. Yet the balance remained delicate in his mind. Self-exploration too was vital, but what if it pushed them further apart? Engaging in this new chapter of his life, he found the courage to write to Sarah, suggesting they meet up for a casual evening with open minds. He felt a flicker of hope that she too might share the fruits of her own discoveries since their last conversation. As he typed the message, the culmination of his experiences surged through him. He sensed he was on the brink of disclosure. A moment of truth awaited, a clarity that could not only redefine his sense of self but also the strength of their bond. The message sent. A mix of anticipation and tension simmered in his gut while he waited for her response. Would she embrace the changes, or would his vulnerabilities expose an insurmountable chasm between them? With formal clarity and depth unraveling before him, he pondered deeply about the nature of risk and reward, both personal and relational, aware that this dance of vulnerability could lead toward the connection he so desperately desired. As night fell, he positioned himself in the workshop, tool in hand, eyeing unfinished projects. Each one encapsulated the quest for growth but echoed the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Could personal evolution truly redefine his relationship with Sarah, or was he still teetering on the edge of isolation? The night held whispers of answers, each minute heavier with possibility. It was within these unresolved thoughts that Mike steeled himself for a rendezvous with Sarah. One conversation might either unravel the threads they began to weave or illuminate a path into the uncharted territory of their newly unfolding selves. Would the courage to embrace vulnerability be their saving grace, or their undoing? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows in his workshop, Mike's heart raced at the thought of Sarah's impending response. The anticipation felt electric. It mingled with the uncertainty that had become all too familiar. He picked up a piece of sandpaper from his workbench, mindlessly smoothing a corner of his latest project, a simple yet elegant coffee table he hoped would be the centerpiece of their next conversation. This piece represented his journey of self-discovery, a symbol of transformation that he wanted to share. The clock ticked loudly, each second amplifying the anxiety that lingered in his chest. With every stroke of the sandpaper, his mind drifted back to that gallery, to that woman's laughter and her stories. His own voice had held weight, a sound that carried the echoes of vulnerability and hope. It was a stark contrast to the silence that often enveloped him at home. But was he ready? Would sharing his newfound insights with Sarah be met with understanding, or the very distance he feared? The weight of those thoughts felt heavier than the wood in his hands, almost suffocating in its intensity. However, the mere act of crafting provided a strange comfort, transforming his anxiety into resolve. The table was more than just a piece of furniture, it was a testament to his growth, a fusion of fear and creativity. After what felt like an eternity, his phone vibrated, breaking the silence. He froze, glancing down at the screen. Sarah's name flashed back at him, and he felt a surge of adrenaline. Taking a steadying breath, he opened her message. "Hey, Mike. I'd love to meet up. I've been doing a lot of thinking, too. When and where?" A wave of relief flooded through him, but beneath it lay the swirling questions. What had Sarah discovered about herself? Would her journey sync with his, or had their roads diverged too much during their time apart? Each thought pricked at his resolve, igniting a potent mix of anticipation and apprehension. He quickly replied, suggesting a quaint cafe near the riverside, a place filled with warmth and comfort, mirroring the atmosphere he hoped to create between them. As he hit send, he realized that he was no longer just trying to reconnect with Sarah, he was also becoming someone he'd never fully embraced before, a man who confronted fear instead of hiding from it. The next day dawned bright, yet Mike's stomach churned with butterflies as he prepared for their meeting. He dressed thoughtfully, choosing a simple yet confident outfit that mirrored the transformation he hoped to convey. As he stepped into the vibrant cafe, a community buzzing with life enveloped him, and he felt a flicker of inspiration akin to the energy he had felt in the gallery. When Sarah entered, she radiated warmth despite her slight apprehension. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, all the unspoken fears receded. They found a quiet corner, and as they settled in with steaming cups of coffee, Mike's heart raced. Would he be able to articulate the gradual shifts that had occurred within him? Would she resonate with the changes sparked by their separation? "Thanks for meeting me," he began, his voice steady. "I've been thinking a lot about us and what we both need to grow." Sarah nodded, her expression earnest. "I have too. It's been a journey. I feel like I've been rediscovering parts of myself that I forgot existed. As her words flowed, Mike realized how sincere her vulnerability was. It paralleled his own, and their moments of sharing began weaving a tapestry of connection that had once felt frayed. They spoke about fears, dreams, and how their individual journeys had shaped the people they were today. Yet, within that intimacy, uncertainty lingered like the bitter edge of the strongest coffee. As the conversation deepened, Mike battled with his next revelation. Should he share his desire to take risks in their relationship, or would it only deepen the chasm of fear he had fought to bridge? He sensed the struggle mirroring his own, the necessity of growth both individually and together. Becoming increasingly clear. The stakes felt higher now, intertwining their aspirations and fears into an intricate tapestry of hope. Would this conversation heal the wounds or expose them further? Feeling the moment hang precariously in the air around them, Mike clung to his newfound courage, preparing himself for the leap into vulnerability. The tables had turned once, now, could they turn again through the risk and reward of emotional honesty? But as he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden apprehension washed over him. Would their past burdens weigh them down or propel them toward new ground? The answer loomed, waiting to be uncovered in their dialogue, where every word held the potential to redefine their futures. As Mike sat across from Sarah, contemplating his next words, he felt the suffocating weight of his past intertwining with his hopes for the future. The cafe hummed around them, a soothing backdrop that matched the warmth in Sarah's eyes but belied the storm that raged within him. The memory of their breakup clung to his thoughts like a stubborn ghost, flickering between doubt and the hope that this conversation might rewrite their future. Sarah, he finally said, the vowel trembling with the enormity of what he was about to articulate. I've realized how important it is for us both to step out of our comfort zones. He hoped those words would hold the gravity he intended. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly replaced by a contemplative nod. I've been doing exactly that, she responded, her voice imbued with a newfound strength. After everything that happened, I started taking classes in photography. I'm still learning, but it's given me a sense of purpose, something I didn't realize I'd lost. Her revelation was like a breath of fresh air, invigorating yet daunting. He could see the spark in her eyes. Her journey was one he felt unfamiliar with, illustrating the paths they had taken apart. He wondered about his own steps in this vast landscape of personal growth. Had he merely been reclaiming the pieces left behind, or had he genuinely transformed? That's amazing, really, he said, trying to bolster her burgeoning confidence even as a shadow of insecurity flickered within him. It's brave to embrace change. Her gaze fixed on him, sharp and searching. And what about you, Mike? What risks have you taken? Doubt gnawed at his insides as he grappled with the question. He had removed himself from the factory line, forced his hands to create something beautiful from wood, but was that enough? Did he dare to view himself as ambitious? In that moment, he realized he had been hiding, even amongst his own achievements, questioning whether a beautiful piece of furniture could equate to authentic growth. He straightened his posture, the acknowledgement of her insight pushing him toward bravery. I'm exploring what I want to do with my life, he confessed, his voice dropping to a nearly confidential level. I've been considering art, showcasing my pieces. I want to step onto a platform where I can share what I create, connect with others. As his words hung softly between them, the vulnerability felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Was he really putting part of his heart on the table, or merely adding another layer of fear for potential hurt? Her reaction was pivotal, and yet he could hardly bear to watch. That's incredible, Mike, Sarah said, her enthusiasm ringing true. Why haven't you done it yet? Her question pierced him, unfurling the crumpled thoughts in his mind. Because I'm afraid of failing, of rejection. I'm still trying to convince myself that I'm capable. With a determined glint in her eye, Sarah leaned closer. We're all afraid. But what if you could turn that fear into motivation? What if that art you create isn't just for others, but for you? A chance to declare who you are. He felt the walls he built around his self-doubt crack ever so slightly. Did he have the courage to embrace that challenge? Could embarking on this venture, not just for her but for himself, muddle his fears into insignificance? The idea ignited a flicker of defiance deep within him that he hadn't recognized before. Maybe you're right, he admitted, feeling the pulse of uncertainty and possibility intertwine within him. But I still don't know if I can take that leap. What if it matters? What if I fail? She smiled, a knowing look on her face that made him question how much she truly understood his struggles. What if you succeed? The question lingered, reverberating against the backdrop of his insecurities. I guess we'll have to push through and see, instead of clinging to doubt, he murmured, feeling emboldened by her encouragement. Exactly. We owe ourselves that much, she said softly, yet he sensed an undercurrent of tension beneath her words. As they continued to share stories of growth, vibrancy emerged between them, but the past still loomed, taut and unresolved. Do you think we can really be who we are meant to be together? He inquired, feeling the gravity of his inquiry echo across their conversation. Sarah hesitated, and in that moment, the air around them thickened with potential. Just as he thought they might unravel the complexities of their emotions, her phone buzzed on the table, vying for her attention. As she glanced at the screen, something shifted in her demeanor, as though the weight of their discussion slipped an inch back into uncertainty. The question loomed larger than before, a precipice teetering on the edge of revival or retreat, a necessity awaiting fulfillment. Can we explore this together? He whispered, clutching the remnants of their dialogue tightly. But all he received in response was a flicker of her own apprehension. Would it lead them to a place of growth or simply amplify the fears they were both navigating? The answer hung tantalizingly close, entwining their hearts in a dance of uncertainty and fervent desire for clarity. Would their paths merge or diverge once more? As she looked up, ready to respond, the cafe door swung open on a gust of wind, ushering in something unexpected, something that could change everything. Mike felt a surge of anticipation ripple through him as the door swung open. The gust carried with it a sense of change that mirrored the tumult brewing within his own soul. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to offer a moment of clarity and answer that would push him down a path he had long feared to tread. When Sarah's phone buzzed again, this time she silenced it with a flick of her finger, her eyes focused once more on him. He saw something in her expression, a mix of curiosity and trepidation, like a paintbrush hovering over a blank canvas, waiting for inspiration to strike. Mike, she began, her voice crisp. Why don't we take that leap together? Maybe we can push each other to pursue what we really want. The thought sank into his mind, swirling within him like a whirlpool. Could they really become catalysts for each other's transformation? Sarah's journey had already begun, and here he was, still caught in the tangled vines of self-doubt. I don't know, he replied, feeling a flicker of intensity tightening in his chest. What if I put myself out there and it all crumbles again? What if this isn't the right choice? What if I can't live up to the image you have of me? Her eyes softened, yet they bore the weight of maturity that made him feel vulnerable. Mike, do you even realize how often we hold ourselves back because of the what-ifs? Failure isn't the end, it's part of the journey. What matters is the courage to try. He swallowed hard, her words igniting a nascent flame within him. But still, doubts gnawed at the edges of his resolve. He had once crafted beautiful pieces of furniture, each curve and texture a testament to his skill, but they were safe, familiar. What if showcasing his art required a level of authenticity he was ready to embrace? As they sat in the cafe, filled with the golden warmth of late afternoon light, Mike began to formulate possibilities. What if instead of retreating into himself, he turned his fear into motivation, as Sarah suggested? He thought of the local art scene, of small galleries where he could display his work, of workshops where he could interact with other creators. Maybe I could start small, he mused aloud, his voice regaining strength. Do an exhibition at a local cafe or host a workshop. But even then, I do worry, what if my art is not good enough? What if no one shows up? Then they don't show up, Sarah countered, her tone steadfast. You'd still have shared a piece of yourself. That alone is invaluable. You can't measure your worth by the opinions or actions of others. The walls around him cracked even further. She was right. What if success wasn't measured by applause, but by the act of creation itself? He straightened in his chair, the resolve in him building. Each piece he created was an expression of who he was, an unwavering declaration against the noise of self-doubt. Okay, Mike finally said, his voice firm, betrayed only by the quiver of uncertainty. I'll start working on a piece for that exhibition. I need to prove to myself that I can do this. Sarah's eyes gleamed with encouragement, sparking a sense of newfound potential in his gut. He felt a little more liberated, the initial trepidation replaced by a thirst for exploration. But as his newfound determination started to solidify, he noticed a brief flicker of consternation cross her face. That's great, Mike. But remember, the commitment to growth requires honesty. Are you sure you're prepared to tackle the past or past as you forge ahead? Her words struck him profoundly. They were treading on uncharted territory, one that challenged both of their vulnerabilities. Could he truly face the remnants of their relationship without retreating into old patterns? The cafe buzz around them faded into a distant hum. He was not just standing on the precipice of professional growth but emotional revelation. The reflection of his journey loomed just beyond his reach, ripe with challenges and profound potential. He nodded slowly, aware that this was not just about art. I want us to explore this together, but I'm also scared of opening old wounds. Sarah leaned forward, her voice steady. Fear isn't a barrier, Mike, it's a guide. The time has come for us both to face what we've avoided. Suddenly, the weight of that acknowledgement hung thick between them. The threads of their past intertwined with their futures, leaving Mike grappling with the insecurity swirling in the depths of his psyche. He could feel the boundary of his emotional comfort zone slipping, the territory ahead both terrifying and exhilarating. The pressure mounted, thickening in the air, as he glanced at her, determined yet uncertain. Their chance to forge a new path lay ahead, but it would demand confronting not only their individual aspirations but the ghosts they each carried. What had begun as an innocent discussion of art and personal growth had transformed into the crux of something far more significant, a moment in which both their lives would either entwine or unravel. As the wind swirled outside, laced with the first tints of twilight, Mike struggled to find courage again. Would he step fully into this murky territory of emotional vulnerability alongside Sarah? The thought echoed, almost a challenge, in the face of fear. Would he rise or retreat? The moment hung in the air, tangible yet elusive, an invitation into an unknown realm where shadows of the past would either confine him or propel him into the light. Mike felt a tension in his chest that coiled tighter with each heartbeat. It was a sensation that he had grown accustomed to, a pulsing reminder of everything he had ever feared. Confronting the past, he whispered, the concept fluttering just out of reach, as abstract yet as immediate as the warm light bathing them in the cafe. As if sensing his turmoil, Sarah tilted her head, allowing the moment to breathe. What do you think holds you back? She asked quietly. He exhaled slowly, contemplating the question that seemed to unravel the threads of his mind. What did hold him back? It was a kaleidoscope of unanswered doubts, an overwhelming melange of insecurities and memories. It's just every time I think about moving forward, I feel the weight of every failure. Every time I tried and didn't succeed, it's like they're my shadows, whispering I'm not good enough. An unexpected resolve simmered within him. It was not just about art or exhibitions but about him as a person, calling out the echoes of his past with a sense of urgency. He had always allowed those whispers to guide his actions, to choke his potential. And your art? She pressed gently. My art it's a reflection of my heart, he admitted, but it's also where I hide, my safe place. I don't think I can continue to hide behind it anymore. The iron grip of fear clawed at him, an instinctual reaction to divulging so much of himself. Then don't hide, Sarah urged. Let it be your voice, not your fortress. Show people the vulnerability that comes with creation. That is what makes art truly resonate with others. Her words resonated deep, igniting sparks of a long-dormant courage, a desire to create not just for external validation but as a pure expression of self, all while standing in his truth. I need to revisit those pieces, he said suddenly, the path ahead clearing amidst the chaos of his mind. I need to understand who I am, what each piece represents, and why it matters to me. That is exactly it, she beamed, her enthusiasm infectious. I'll dive into the old pieces, confront what they express. I might even start journaling my thoughts about them, what they meant to me then and how they might inform who I'm becoming. The idea felt like an exhilarating leap, dismissing the clutches of his apprehensions in favor of personal discovery. Yet, the weight of Sarah's final question lingered. How would confronting the past reshape their relationship? It was tempting to imagine that they could emerge stronger, but Mike hesitated. The intensity of their history cast shadows he was not sure he could escape. The conversation continued, but his thoughts danced elsewhere. He envisioned himself standing before a canvas again, paint in hand, but this time it wouldn't be mere decoration, it would be a transformative experience, forging connections with his past self and the audience that would witness his journey. As the cafe doors opened and closed, introducing the chill of nightfall, an urgency gripped him. What if he could lead an exhibition showcasing not just his best work but also those pieces that told a flawed and beautiful story of who he had become? What if stripping away the illusions of perfection was the true essence of his art? I'll do it, he declared, louder than he intended, drawing curious glances from nearby tables. The rush of adrenaline coursed through him, replacing the fear that had taken root. I'm committing to this process. Not just the exhibition, but also the honesty. But as he exhaled determination, the truth dawned that this commitment would require more than courage. It demanded vulnerability, and with it, the reckoning of everything he had kept buried. Could he really answer the past? What words still needed to be spoken between him and Sarah? The thought swirled in the charged air. They stood on the cusp of something monumental, but parts of him balked at the confrontation that lay ahead. Mike's heart pounded, igniting a fierce urgency transformed into a challenge. For every step forward, another challenge arose. Would he uncover the remnants of their shared past to build a future that was not only about art but the possibility of healing? The flickering candle between them danced with shadows, mirroring the turbulence in his soul as he braced himself for the journey into the unknown. Would he find the strength to face not just his art but also the story they shared, or would the weight of unresolved emotions lead him back to retreat? The path was unclear, yet one thing was certain: he had to move forward into the depths of that uncertainty, one brushstroke at a time. As the cafe emptied, the flickering neon of the streetlights outside cast shifting patterns on the worn wooden tables. Mike's gaze remained fixed on the remnants of their conversation, each word echoing within him like a drumbeat urging him onward. The quiet intensity of Sarah's presence ignited something within him, stoking the embers of an ambition he thought long extinguished. Could this new direction really lead him to an exhibition born from both vulnerability and strength? As he envisioned the gallery transform into a tapestry of his life experiences, the notion felt as thrilling as it was disconcerting. He would reveal not just artistry but raw, unfiltered truths about his journey. His heart raced at the thought of confronting the past, and yet a familiar tension coiled in his chest. He had become adept at sidestepping the tough questions, crafting a facade that kept expectations at bay. What if they were wrong? What if the pieces, once revisited, shattered the identity he had so carefully constructed? Are you all right? Sarah's voice broke through his ruminations, pulling him back from the precipice of uncertainty. Yeah, just thinking, he replied, a fleeting frown shadowing his face. Thinking about what, if you don't mind me asking? She probed, her expression a mixture of concern and encouragement. With a deep breath, he decided to wade into uncharted territory. I've been considering how much of what I create is driven by fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of exposing myself. What if I can't create anything worthwhile when I start looking into the past? The vulnerability behind his words momentarily took Sarah aback. But soon, a warm smile broke through. That is precisely what the audience needs to see, the real you. It's in our struggles that we connect, Mike. You might be surprised at how your imperfections resonate with others. The clarity in her eyes ignited a flicker of confidence. Perhaps, he mused aloud, the flaws in my pieces could tell a fuller story. Maybe that is where true connection lies, with the honest reflection of who I am. Yes. She leaned closer, energy radiating around her. Imagine standing in front of that crowd, sharing your truth, your failure, reclaiming those pieces whose meanings you've outgrown. It can't just be about the art, it has to be about the artist. The challenge of converting those abstract thoughts into concrete action wrapped around Mike like a warm blanket. But a lingering doubt held him back. What if the audience only saw the echoes of his failures instead of the growth that followed? Would the past truly serve as a foundation for a brighter future, or would it weigh him down? As he looked out the glass facade into the night, the shapes of passers-by loomed in the twilight, eager souls intent on their journeys. Each person carried their own burdens, and perhaps that made them more alike than different, a shared struggle that transcended solitary pain. I need to start laying it all out, he finally declared, his conviction strengthening with every word. I'll create a timeline of my pieces, jotting down insights and revelations about each one. It's time to confront what these artworks represent, and then maybe I can begin to merge them into a cohesive narrative. Sarah's eyes sparkled. That is a brilliant idea. Not only will you reclaim your pieces, but you'll also tell a story, your story. He felt a surge of excitement building within him, yet a deeper motivation simmered just beneath. This exhibition was not only about the art but about reclaiming his identity in the light of those memories. He would piece together a narrative not just for the audience, but for himself, a reclaiming of his heart. With renewed determination, they left the cafe. The cool night air filled his lungs, a refreshing reminder of the journey ahead. But as they walked down the bustling street, a sense of foreboding crashed over him. Each step forward beckoned with possibility, yet also risked digging up memories he had long tried to bury. Would he be able to embrace the truth of his past while forging a New identity from it, or would the ghost scatter his resolve and lead him back into the shadows? A chill raced up his spine as he questioned the paths his feet were tracing. He turned to Sarah. What if revisiting all of this opens wounds that are better left closed? Her response would alter everything. Would it provide the grounding he needed, or throw him deeper into the unknown? The fear that clouded his mind seemed to intertwine with the excitement bubbling within him, leaving him trapped between two potent forces. And thus, as they ventured on into the depths of the night, Mike felt the weight of both anxiety and anticipation intertwine. What awaited him on the other side of this confrontation with the past? Could he truly confront the specters hidden in his past to forge the future he desired, or would he falter just before the breakthrough he so desperately craved? Mike stood in his workshop, wood shavings on the floor and sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating his latest project, a beautifully crafted coffee table adorned with meticulous carvings. Only weeks before, he felt lost, drowning in self-doubt after losing Sarah and his job. But time had breathed new life into him, and each piece he created was a testament to both his resilience and the growth he had so courageously pursued. In every mark he etched into the wood, he saw not only a reflection of his journey but also a clear path forward. The phone buzzed, jolting him from his reverie. It was Sarah, a simple message, "Can we talk? I think the past is catching up with us." A mix of excitement and anxiety bubbled within him. He had wrestled with the memories of their relationship, confronting his insecurities and the identity he had reshaped. He was no longer the lost man who sat forlornly in his kitchen. He had taken ownership of his life, rediscovered himself through these creations, and had embraced vulnerability. The cafe they chose for their conversation buzzed with energy as they met. Sarah looked wonderful, and yet the shadows of uncertainty lingered around them like stray pieces of unpolished wood. They exchanged tentative smiles, but there was an undercurrent of gravity threading through their words. "Thanks for meeting me," she began, her voice steady but cautious. "I've had some time to think about everything." Mike nodded, bracing himself for what he had rehearsed in his mind. "Me too. I've reflected on our past, on how I lost myself after getting fired, how we lost that connection. We both found a bit of ourselves outside of each other, didn't we?" Her eyes widened slightly, and the hint of a smile flicked across her lips. "Absolutely. I started taking photography classes again. I realized I needed to reclaim my passion." "That's fantastic, Sarah. I've been diving deep into my woodworking, each piece I've created revealing parts of myself I forgot existed." They talked earnestly about their passions, building a bridge across the divide that had formed between them during their separation. As the conversations flowed, he felt the warmth return, yet a critical truth loomed in the background: how to address the fractures of their shared past. "Mike," she said softly, "I've thought a lot about our relationship. Can we really move forward without facing what happened between us?" The tension in the air hung like a gentle weight, and Mike felt his heart race in acceptance. "We have to. Facing our past is part of growing. I want that for us, but I also understand fear might still linger." "I'm scared too," Sarah admitted. "But let us lean into that fear together. Instead of retreating back into our shells, we can put our vulnerabilities on the table literally and figuratively." He took a deep breath, sensing the new bond forming between them. "I'm working on an exhibition that tells my story through the pieces I've created. I want to include everything, my struggles, failures, and triumphs, each part making me who I am today." Her eyes sparkled with intrigue. "That's incredible, Mike. I want to be a part of that journey. I want to photograph your work and capture the essence of what you create. We can mingle our stories without losing ourselves." The potential to collaborate ignited a thrill within him but revealed yet another vulnerability: would they succeed in this newfound partnership, or would old tensions resurface? As if sensing his thoughts, she gently squeezed his hand. "We can't predict how it'll unfold, but we owe it to ourselves to try. Let us push each other to be brave." With this, an unexpected surge of confidence settled over Mike. He realized that the act of creation wasn't just for self-expression, it was now about sharing and connecting. He could rise above the fear of his past, stand firmly in his transformation, and embrace the future hand in hand with Sarah. As they spoke further, drawing visions of the exhibition together, it became evident that this was not merely a professional venture, it was a personal reclamation and reinvention of who they were. Their shared creativity became a vehicle to navigate their vulnerabilities while solidifying their bond. Weeks later, as Mike stood in the gallery that overlooked the city, Warmth flooded through him as he gazed at his work displayed alongside Sarah's thoughtful photographs. Each crafted piece, each captured moment unveiled layers of struggle, hope, and tenacity. The exhibition was a celebration of their journeys. As guests admired the works, he felt their stories resonate, illuminating the importance of overcoming fear and embracing vulnerability, a path towards reconnecting with oneself and others. That night brought recognition, not just from those attending but also from within himself. Mike had transformed not only in his craft but also in how he approached life and relationships. With each piece he shared, he proved that he was not merely surviving but thriving. The whispers of the past lingered, yet they no longer held him hostage. Standing alongside Sarah, their creations breathing life into their stories, he knew he had conquered his fears, forged new connections, and emerged a fully realized version of himself. "Thank you," he whispered to Sarah, as she captured moments of the evening with her camera. "For what?" she asked, eyes bright with understanding. "For walking this journey with me, for reminding me who I can be." They exchanged a vital look, one filled with shared resilience and a promise to continue crafting their lives together. This transformation not only marked a new beginning for them but also revealed the timeless truth that each moment of courage ripples outward, creating a fabric of connection that embraces growth, love, and possibility. Now was the time to act. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more inspiring tales of personal growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these powerful stories. Comment your thoughts and share your personal journeys below. Your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.